Hi guys! For today's video, our topic was all about
Microorganisms and causation.
so how many times have been told to wash your hands before eating or even touching money and other dirty surfaces? By washing, we think that we're clean and microorganism free. We have bathed, cook our food, and even cover our mouth when we cough and sneeze to prevent the spread of these tiny dirty particles that could make us sick. What many people don't realize is that if they're doing all of these things, we are still far from being clean. The number of microorganisms living on and in us is about 10 times higher than the number of cells that make up our entire body. Before you try and scrub away those tiny organisms all over your skin, consider that most of these microorganisms are essential to our health. The disease-causing microorganisms, however, are another matter entirely. They use simple tricks to enter your bodies so they can cause diseases. These germs have been studying ways to trick the human immune system for a long time because getting past the body's defenses is their key for their survival. We may even learn a thing or two about the immune system by studying them. Who knows? We could learn from something so small. It was once thought that with the invention of different medicines and vaccines, that science had won the war between humans and disease-causing microbes. We now know this isn't the case because new microbes and diseases are still being discovered, and old microbes that once thought defeated are re-emerging. Strange, new diseases seem to appear out of nowhere, especially now that more people are traveling internationally. Environmental changes to a microbe can also make it a health threat to humans, creating an even bigger concern now that different issues like global warming seem to be taking effect. The battle between humans and disease-causing microbes is far from over. In fact, you may say it's just the beginning. So how can I be safe from these germs? To avoid or spreading germs, you must get rid of them, and there are different ways to can stop them in their tracks before they make you sick. By washing your hands, the one is the easiest and most effective things you can do to get rid of germs. To make sure that all the germs on your hands are gone, you should briskly wash your hands with soap and water for at least 15 seconds, the same amount of time it takes to sing the alphabet of a happy birthday. You should always wash your hands before making or eating food or after coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose, changing a diaper, and using the bathroom. There are also medicines called vaccines that will prevent you from getting sick. There are vaccines to prevent measles, whooping cough, chickenpox, and meningitis. There are also vaccines for those who travel around the world to areas that may be some diseases that aren't common here. These vaccines will prevent infections with yellow fever, polio, typhoid fever, hepatitis A, cholera, rabies, and other infections. When it comes to germs, there is nothing predictable about them. Not only do they infect you in different ways, they also cause different sorts of infections. And these infections are divided into three different groups based on the length of time they make you sick. This infection type, first, is the acute infection, lasts for a short amount of time and can be severe. This infection causes symptoms such as tardiness, muscle aches, coughing, and sneezing. An example of an acute infection is the common cold. Acute infections last about 2 to 24 days, with the average infection time being about 1 week. The second is the chronic infection, lasts anywhere from days to months for a lifetime, and usually develop from the acute infection. Sometimes, people with chronic infections may not even know they're infected because they won't have any symptoms. An example of chronic infection is the hepatitis C. Most people with hepatitis C don't even know they're infected, and recovery is rare. About 85% of infected people become chronically infected with serious signs of liver damage not appearing until the last 20 years after the infection begins. Every type of germ has its own way of sneaking inside you to make you sick. By figuring out how many germs infect us, we have a better chance of avoiding infection in the future. Germs can spread in many different ways. They can travel through air, pass directly from person to person, are present in surfaces contaminated by someone who is infected, and be spread by someone who may not even know they're sick. To find out more about the ways these bad bugs can cause infection, keep reading and always stay clean. Always disinfect and clean our houses to avoid infection disease. For infection to occur, each step has to be completed. If even one link of the chain is broken, the process will be interrupted with no infection will occur. For example, the chain could be broken at link 4, the mode of transmission, or link 6, which is the host susceptibility. There is no disease that can affect to every person. And the final link of the chain is how susceptible the host is to infection. Depending on the germ and the disease it causes, some hosts will be easier to infect than others. Having a way to escape from the reservoir means up the third link. We are at the reservoir. The pathogenic microorganisms can escape when we cough or sneeze. The fourth link of the chain is the mode of transmission from the reservoir to the host. If water is the reservoir, its mode of transmission could be our drinking water supply. To cause infection, the pathogen must find a way inside the host. Finding a means of entry is the fifth link. A pathogen in water would enter us if we drank the water it was in. A pathogen in the air would enter us if we inhaled it. How do we actually get infected with the disease-causing microorganisms? Every day, we come into contact with people or animals that may be infected with the disease-causing microbes. This put us at risk of being exposed to disease. Becoming infected depends on the length between the pathogen and the environment and the host. The host is being you and I. The infection method may be thought of as 6 different steps that all join together to form a circular chain. The pathogenic microorganisms. It is the process begins with a certain disease-causing microbes being present. It is the first link of the chain. The second link is the reservoir, the environment where the pathogen can survive. Example of a reservoir includes water, soil, and inside someone who is already infected with the germ. In our past video, we learned about the microbes. It is another word for microorganisms, in which it is a tiny individual living thing that is a way too small to be seen by the human eye alone. The only way these organisms can be seen is by using a microscope. This is why microbes are often called microscopic organisms. These organisms are found almost everywhere you can think of here in Earth. In air, soil, water, and rock, or even in plants, animals, and the human body. Some microbes can live in a very hot temperatures, and others can live in the freezing cold. Some need oxygen to grow and stay alive, like you and I, while others survive without it. While some microbes plays an important part in our daily lives by keeping us healthy, others are nothing but a bad news. This bad news, microbes are called the disease-causing microbes and can make humans, animals, and plants sick by using infections and diseases. Most microbes belong to 4 major groups: the viruses, the bacteria, the protozoa, or a fungi. The disease-causing microbes can be called the pathogens. The germs or bugs are responsible for causing infectious diseases. They can also contribute to the chronic diseases and conditions, and are now being linked with coronary artery disease, diabetes, and other certain types of cancer, multiple sclerosis, and chronic lung disease. The infectious diseases caused by the disease-causing microbes are responsible for more deaths worldwide than any other single causes. Scientists are working hard to find ways that will control other germs, but trying to defeat them is not an easy task. Disease-causing microbes are very good at adjusting to new environments, making it hard to find a way to get rid of them. Microbes can quickly develop new features that make them resistant to the drugs that were once able to kill them. This means scientists must try and stay one step ahead, even though it is hard to do. New diseases caused by recently discovered pathogens are also being identified at an increasing rate. In these past 30 years, new pathogens have been identified. The primary production involves photosynthetic organisms which take up carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and convert it to organic matter. The process is called carbon fixation. It accounts for a very large portion of organic carbon available for synthesis of cell material. Although terrestrial plants are obviously primary producers, microorganisms such as planktonic algae and cyanobacteria account for nearly half of the primary productions in the plant. These unicellular organisms, which float in the oceans, are the grass of the sea, and they are the source of carbon from which marine life is derived.